Hello there, Shortcuts. This is Stephen here for the latest list from Shortcuts. I think it will be our 30th of the year. There'll be a couple more lists before I go on some extended leave, so please take advantage while you can. This list will go out as usual 9 p.m. this Wednesday, the 13th of August, Sydney time, 9 p.m. Sydney time. If you would like to be on the list and aren't currently on the list, you can drop me an email at shortcutsrecordsaus@gmail.com and I will add you. Now, this list is a little bit different to the previous few weeks. This is almost exclusively UK and Aussie presses and different price points to what we've been doing with the Japanese list. So a lot of these are going to be cheaper. But yeah, keep an eye out. There will also be a list of specials as well. That'll be as a surprise at the bottom. Now, this is kind of disco, dance, soul, fusion, jazz. This is more like a genre mix of all sorts of things. And with a classic rock album, or classic rock list to come. Okay, with that, let's get started. I'm going to start, I could only really start here. This is a very rare and I suspect a record that quite a few of you might be interested in. This is super hard to find. This is the 1999 UK first press of Jamiroquai's Synchronized. This is the UK gatefold in utterly fantastic condition. There's the inner, and the record has quite an interesting label actually. It's in brilliant condition. It's got the name of the album, Synchronized, with the little Jamiroquai logo. Look, by the late 90s, Jamiroquai had become probably quite literally the face of, I suppose, acid jazz on the global stage, with the let's call him the I suppose to some people amazing, to others not so much, the lead man, the ever energetic JK. So this is a band that mixed soul, funk, some elements of jazz, and for me, all of it is rooted in Stevie Wonder. So last week, we had Stevie Wonder's Songs in the Key of Life. By the way, I've still got one copy of that Japanese press left. So if anyone is still interested in the Japanese press of Songs in the Key of Life, drop me a note. But I can completely hear the influence of Jamiroquai. I mean, it is pretty stark. And you know, they'd had a huge platinum success, particularly in the UK, with Traveling Without Moving. This record, by all accounts, was a little bit more turbulent. The bass player, Stuart Zender, left, and he was a big part of their early sound. But this doesn't mean that this isn't a really tight, kind of rhythmic affair. The opening track, Can't Hate, really is pretty joyous, and I'm not even a massive fan. Supersonic is more kind of dance oriented. I think my little boy Finbar, he enjoyed that one. King for a Day is more orchestral. It's, you know, it was, critical review was split though. I suppose that there's less band interplay, but there's a lot more genre hopping, which I kind of find a little bit more interesting. Yeah, really interesting record. Very hard to find these late 90s kind of firmly in the CD age pressings, but this one is it sounds surprisingly good. All right, there's Jamiroquai. Now I've got this. Now this is very firmly Shortcuts legendary, Shortcuts royalty record. You can see here the hype sticker, the number 2 debut LP in the UK, features Your Love Is King, Smooth Operator, and When Am I Going to Make a Living. I'm kind of wondering now whether this might be the UK first press. No, it's Australian, but it's in the paper sleeve. Really nice condition. Helen Folasade Adu. Born in Nigeria but raised in England. I guess somewhat of an unlikely pop star, but her legend has only grown over time. Her voice is so smoky. Songs like Your Love Is King has got this beautiful bass layered into it. It's kind of the ultimate in understated perfection, isn't it? I remember very clearly when she won the Brit the following year, so this would be 1985, for Best Album. And I think from then this record has just solidified itself. Now the Japanese press is quite expensive. This will be a lot cheaper, and it's still in really nice condition. So there you have it. Now, this next record is my favorite on this list, and it's an opportunity for me to call out a little something. I was invited a little while ago to appear as a guest on a podcast based in the US called 1001 Album Complaints, and it's a group of US musicians and childhood friends who select albums at random from Robert Dimery's classic book, 1001 Albums to Hear Before You Die. And they do a deep dive on the musicality, on the context, and they make a decision. Does this record genuinely fit the criteria of something you must hear before you die? And there's a vote. But prior to that, they sometimes can be pretty mean about the records, and so I guess that's the basis of the name. But I was asked to appear as a guest, and a few weeks back I recorded an episode all about the Pogues album Rum, Sodomy and the Lash, and that episode comes out Monday week, the 18th of August. Now, in this list, I have this record. Red Roses for Me, the Pogues. This is the Australian first press in really, really nice condition. There they are on the back. Look at the Robert F. Kennedy in the background. This record is super raw, super great. The first two Pogues albums are genuinely magnificent. I'm not going to rehash a lot of what I talk about on the podcast, because I'm really hoping that some of you might listen to it. But this is a fascinating record, and it is the launching pad for what, I think is the greatest London Irish band of all time. And when they were eventually embraced in Ireland, which took some time, maybe the greatest Irish band ever. I think they certainly have an argument. The Battle of Brisbane, the Old Triangle, dark streets of London, streams of whiskey, down in the ground where the dead men go. Everything about it is magnificent. Red Roses for Me by the Pogues. All right. Now on to something very different. This is Birds of Fire by the Mahavishnu Orchestra. Rick Laird, Jan Hammer, Jerry Goodman, Billy Cobham, incredible drummer, and the probably jazz fusion guitarist of all time, John McLaughlin. This is 1973. This is a band bringing the East sounds of Eastern scales based out of India to, the word jazz, but also marrying it with a real rock intensity. The Birds of Fire is the Mahavishnu Orchestra, truly at the top of their powers before they all fell apart. Way too many egos. But the influence of this record stretches right into, kind of math rock and prog metal and all sorts. And it's really something. And it's a really, really nice copy. This Australian collection that I picked up is in fantastic condition. It really, really is good. All right, we're going to genre hop once more to this. This is Donna Summer, Bad Girls, 1979, the queen of disco. she took a big leap with Bad Girls, expanded her dance floor nous into kind of more rock oriented songs. And, Michael Jackson had his ear open to this because he did exactly the same thing with Thriller. But this record isn't produced by Quincy Jones, it is produced by Giorgio Moroder. And so you can really hear that incredibly warm, squidgy, synthy sound. You get the guitar driven hot stuff, that you get the tender ballads like Dim All the Lights. Multiple Grammy wins, absolute masterpiece of an album. I absolutely love it. I always grab it every time I see it. I think everything about it is just somewhat tongue-in-cheek, but also just completely, utterly awesome. I love it. All right. Now I'm going to continue in this kind of disco soul vein, but I'm going to go a little bit earlier, and I've got a couple of really, really cool records. I have Barry White's debut album, I've Got So Much to Give. Lush, symphonic, soul, just, this has got I'm Gonna Love You Just a Little Bit More, Baby, Standing in the Shadows of Love, produced by Barry White, and, no credit for, well, there's a little credit for the Love Unlimited Orchestra down the bottom, but you look at all these people he has in his hands. Just fantastic. And back in the day, cost $5.95. But, much as the debut was kind of like kind of a statement of intent, in the same year, he released another record. Now, this one goes all out. This is Stone Gone, 1973. Same year as I've Got So Much to Give. This time, seriously hypnotic. So groovy. His voice has developed more of a growl. This is the archetypal 70s slow jam record. As a pair, they're both just huge, huge amounts of fun. Really, really, really fun. Never, never Gonna Give You Up. Found Second Life. I remember listening to it in the UK in the 90s. And so, yeah, Barry White was rediscovered. In a similar vein, Barry White, lighting touch paper in the 70s. In the 80s, Herbie Hancock had kind of, already had 3 careers. And so, he went, I'll go again, the 4th time out. So this time, he led the charge with Future Shock and then followed up with Sound System. So Future Shock, this is jazz with hip-hop and kind of electro beat. And he collaborated with this guy called Bill Laswell, and Rocket became an absolute global phenomenon. I went to see Herbie Hancock last year in the Opera House. It was amazing, and he pulled out the white kind of keytar and rocked Rocket, and it was one of the most pleasurable experiences I had all last year. It was really cool. But there are deeper tracks like Earthbeat that are really, really fun. And it almost sounds a bit like industrial funk. It's really, really fun. The critics were like, ugh, because, Herbie was this jazz, landmark. But people loved it. And so there it is. And this was also Grammy Award winning as well. Rocket won the Grammy for R&B Instrumental. Now, Future Shock was... I suppose, I don't know whether it would be an unexpected big hit. I suppose it may have been at the time. But then Sound System's really interesting because it kind of goes a little bit more dub. Now, I've had Sound System for a really long time. I think I might even prefer it to Future Shock, but it's really, really good. I think critics like this one a little bit more. I remember reading some reviews saying it was kind of much more adventurous, but it didn't have the big hit that the Future Shock had with Rocket, so maybe not quite as loved, but it's, I suppose if you're into the kind of more club DJ sound, I think, yeah, sound system is pretty great. All right. Now, look at this. Who can identify this guitarist just from that picture? Can you see that? It is, of course, George Benson. This is someone who I've kind of grown to like, not really been on my radar, but is becoming more fun. So you can see here, there's Quincy Jones. It might give you an idea of who produced this. And it's on the Warner Brothers label. This is probably one of George Benson's biggest crossover albums. This is now more, not so much jazz guitar as it is kind of funk and pop, and Quincy Jones sprinkles his magic dust all over this. This also won multiple Emmys. I think it won 3. It's, kind of maybe not quite for me on the same tier as Sade, but that sophisticated kind of quality funk jazz crossover stuff is where this one lives. And yeah, it's very cool. The guy, of course, Rod Temperton, who was the legendary songwriter, he wrote Give Me the Night for George Benson, but he also wrote Thriller for Michael Jackson, and the Quincy Jones links continue. Man, he's in everything. By the way, I have a Quincy Jones special coming up in a few weeks for those of you who are a Quincy Jones fan. It'll be a Quincy and Herbie Hancock special. All right, now one of my favorite Impulse records is this, Out of the Cool, the Gil Evans Orchestra. This is, of course, the legendary Impulse strip, the black and orange sleeve. This is a mono press. I'm gonna have to go and check the year on this, but I'm pretty sure this is an Aussie first press from it'll probably be the early 60s. It's a bit marked up, so it's a bit kind of fuzzy dusty, and therefore that'll be reflected in the price. But just a legendary record. I really like how these tracks build over time. La Nevada starts off kind of slow, but then just builds. Eagles, where Flamingos Fly is really cinematic. Sounds like it should be, theme song to a movie. Really, really fun record. Okay, a couple more here that are more kind of compilations, but also really, really nice. On the Motown label, you have the Commodores Live double album. This is before the Commodores became all about, Lionel Richie's ballads. This is when they were a full-on funk band. This is them in their prime, from Brick House to Zoom. Really kind of energetic show. Now, at the time, again, the critics were kind of like, this band is really something. And you could hear on stage just how strong they are. Produced by the Commodores themselves. I don't know, they're kind of, maybe by this point, a little bit of an underrated band, but yeah, really, really quite good. Okay, and final run. There's a couple of little obscurities and interesting things here. I've got this, The History of Ella Fitzgerald. This is a broad sweep of the First Lady of Song's career, all the way from her kind of swing beginnings to the point where she was basically interpreting the entire American songbook. And it's pretty great. I'm a big Ella fan. There's times when her voice is almost too beautiful to believe, and so these compilations are really fun because you can get a real wild sweep of what she's about, and I quite like the inside of this one. Again, sleeves not great condition, so these will be really quite attractively priced. But if you are an Ella fan, that one's a lot of fun. All right, this one's more me than the thing. This is from my shelf. I didn't realize I had a couple of copies of this. This is Ahmad Jamal, Rossiter Road. Here he is on the back sleeve. Ahmad Jamal, James Comic, Herlin Riley, Manola Badrina. So this is kind of 80s Ahmad Jamal, and he at this point had really become a master of modern production without losing all of the elegance of his playing. Really amazing acoustic sounds as well, subtle electronica. I think it's a really graceful record. I love it. This was kind of right about the mid 80s. There was this period where acoustic jazz had a little bit of a renaissance, and this record kind of, I think, was part of that. And yeah, I like it very much. Now, also for those of you who from Australia can see that not only do we have peelings, we also have brashes, two of the key record stores from back in the day. And then finally, we're going to finish with some prog. I have Anderson, Bruford, Wakeman, and Howe. 4/5 of the classic Yes lineup reassembled. The only one missing was Chris Squire, and they went full symphonic prog grandeur, Brother of Mine, Birthright, multi-part symphonic craziness. Critics were a bit sniffy, but people really enjoyed it. And so there you have a wildly diverse list of records for this genre piece, but that's part of the fun of this. Watch out for the next list, which is more kind of classic rock, and there'll be a bunch of specials as well. As always, like or leave a comment, and if you would like to be on the price list, drop me an email, shortcutsrecords@gmail.com. All right, classic rock to come. To give you a little sneak preview, the classic rock list will feature this. All right, see you soon. Bye.